Hi, I'm Christy McDonald, and here's what's coming up this week on One Detroit Arts and Culture. The art collection of actress CCH Pounder that was at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, plus brutally honest storytelling by Detroiter Shannon Cason. Then we love Detroit pizza, but where did it really come from? Some Detroit Pizza 101. Then a holiday favorite, a virtual performance of the Nutcracker. It's all coming up on One Detroit.
From Delta Faucets to Behr Paint, Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support for this program provided by the Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
The Kresge Foundation, Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan.
The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public TV, among the state's largest foundations committed to Michigan-focused giving. We support organizations that are doing exceptional work in our state. Visit dtefoundation.com to learn more.
Business Leaders for Michigan, dedicated to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. Nissan Foundation. Ally.
The Fred A. and Barbara M. Erb Family Foundation.
And viewers like you.
Hey, One Detroit, I'm Christy McDonald, and welcome to One Detroit Arts and Culture. And that's my dog, Tate. He likes to watch me do the show. We hope you're enjoying these December days, sharing traditions and staying healthy. But if you're missing some holiday performances this time of year, just wait. We'll have a virtual performance of the Nutcracker for you coming up on this show. Also ahead, you'll meet Detroiter Shannon Cason, who has a popular podcast and has honed the art of brutally honest storytelling. Then Detroit pizza, we love it. It's popping up on menus around the country, New York even. Well, we have the history of how it all began from our documentary called Detroit Remember When, Made in Detroit. It is all coming up. But we're starting off with an art collection that spent a lot of the year at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. It's the personal collection of actress CCH Pounder. When the exhibit opened up last winter, she sat down with Will Glover to talk about the art, which focuses on Black womanhood, beauty, and power.
Let's get started with where we expect to get started. You are a wildly successful actor. You've had success from Avatar to the NCIS series in your career. You beautifully restore homes around the country.
Thank you.
That I genuinely enjoy that.
Oh, thanks.
And you are a very well-respected art collector. Does it just come naturally to excel in other forms?
Well, I don't know about everybody else, but for me it came fairly naturally, and it kind of was hand in hand. Interiors. My mother bought a house for $27,000 and made all of her children paint and fix it up for the summer so that we could have money to go to school.
Oh, wow.
Lessons learned. Because it wasn't as if, oh, paint. I said, no. Get the corners, get that. And so an attention to detail started very, very young. I wanted to be an artist, a visual artist in the beginning, and I had this conflict with wanting to be an actor. I had a mentor, Stella Curran. I always give kudos to her because she said, Carol, acting's for young people. As long as you have your hands and your eyes, you can be an artist. And so I said, well, then I'll do the first half of my life as an actor and then the second half of my life as an artist. Well, of course, it doesn't really all fall together like that.
Right.
I mean, acting took a long time to manifest itself as a working person, and then all of a sudden it was there. And it was there relentlessly for, what, now 45 years straight. So I haven't stopped acting professionally. And while I was doing that, I started to introduce my friends who were artists to people who did movies, to people who became chefs. So immediately there was a kind of you ought to know so-and-so, and she ought to know you, and he can put that up on your wall of your restaurant. And
Right.
we had this wonderful sort of symbiotic activity going on within the arts. And so that's really how I started and how I continued.
Does your acting and your experience through the career so far, does that influence how you interact and approach with and pick art?
No, it's not the same, except in the sense that when you see the work downstairs, you will know that I'm interested in storytelling. And you can see it in almost every single painting that there's a story to be told. And it's not particularly complicated because there is strong emotion in almost all of the works. And so that is obviously my attraction, where I see something that speaks to me and I can literally almost feel the story.
Right.
And that's what makes it, I think, really perfect for the type of audience that sees my work.
And is that what about the pieces that you select? That what is it about those pieces that makes you say, this is it? Like, I have to, like, this is the story. I have to have it. I get that tingle down my spine.
Well, I remember my late husband saying to me, I'm only married to one woman. Look at all these women in here. And I tend to gravitate to the female subject. And I feel as if the emotion of the painting that I'm seeing gives me a story that I can tell. And I can actually translate it even into characters that I've played.
Right.
I've even gathered strength from paintings. Like, there's an incredible painting of Harriet Tubman, and it's a mean painting because she's standing over a man with a gun, and she's basically saying, if you don't get up and get us north, I will shoot you myself.
Right.
And you can see it in her face. And I just went, I just have to take that home. So there is a moment that I connect that's deeply personal.
What was the motivation in bringing, or if it wasn't a motivation, what was the reason for bringing this collection to the Wright here in Detroit?
Well, obviously Neil Barclay. And I'm not saying that just because he's in the room. But obviously, I had a relationship with Neil Barclay in New Orleans. I knew him then when he ran another institution, and he introduced the unusual. And I was somewhat fascinated by that. And when he came here, I decided that this was a great place to start a completely different phase of my collection, because I'd been talking about, I don't want it to end up in a basement. I don't want it to be part of my will that ends up in the basement of a museum and that gets trotted out Black History Month or a particular happening, and then it's like, oh, wouldn't it be appropriate if we went and got a couple of those paintings?
Right.
I wanted the idea that this was living matter, and it could be seen now, and it could travel, and other people could see it, be inspired by it, take a look at how we looked back then and what we're doing now and what the future holds for us. Within the collection, all three of those things exist. There's the historic, there's the present, and there's the future.
Stories have a way of sticking with us, and Detroiter Shannon Cason has honed the art of what he calls brutally honest storytelling. He's gained a national presence through his podcast called Homemade Stories, and he reveals a lot about his life and encourages others to step out of their comfort zone.
Went to a local computer store, got me a mic, and started doing podcasts. My name is Shannon Cason, and I'm a storyteller. You ready to hear some stories from some people?
When Shannon Cason started recording his Homemade Stories podcast, he was on the front end of the boom.
You got a podcast? No, I saw somebody over here. Who else got a podcast? Anybody else?
It's a podcast festival in downtown Detroit. This is its second year.
It's what you're doing right now, which is coming together to listen to a whole bunch of really, really good audio stories.
As storytellers practice their art, for so many, podcasts have become their delivery system.
Yeah, it seemed a good crowd, too. Yeah. Good job, man. Great job. Yep.
One economic forecaster says next year, podcasting will be $1 billion industry. Cason's along for the ride.
I think as an artist, all artists are entrepreneurs in a whole bunch of ways. I've done 2 Kickstarters. I sell products and merch, sell books. So all those things, they just come in line with being an artist.
I was born in Sinai Hospital, right?
This night, Glenn Washington, host of the public radio Snap Judgment program and podcast, is Cason's featured guest.
It's wonderful, really, to see so many elements of Detroit storytelling come together. This is really one of the places where I think that storytelling, this whole new sort of art form is being created. And Shannon Cason, he's one of the atlases holding things together.
Welcome to Homemade Stories 109. I've been telling people for a long time, I'm slow. I'm slow in all things. The way I talk, the way I walk. I have long strides. I'm 6'3". So it seems like I'm walking fast, but it's a steady gait. You like that word, gait? The stories that I tell are from my life, everyday life, and then some are more dramatic.
The casino was a 10-minute drive, Motor City Casino. This is in Detroit. The dealer deals the cards. I lose. And then I chase till I lose the whole $50,000.
And I had no creative aspirations at all. I just wanted to be a good operations manager at a plumbing wholesale warehouse in Flint. Then in Chicago with a decent salary. Then I got laid off. Then I went broke. Then my wife left me with my 3-month-old baby daughter. And I went to a bar to learn the old-fashioned art of becoming a drunk. And it happened to be a storytelling event.
Now Cason's encouraging others to step up to the mic.
Fine. I get out of the car and I'm like, how?
A call for some more brutally honest stories.
That's the whole thing about Shannon. All of us who are from here, we're protective of this place. And sometimes there's stories about this place that we don't necessarily want the rest of the world to know about. Shannon just says, forget all that noise. I'm gonna tell you what really happened. You can listen if you want, you can believe if you want, but I don't care. I'm just gonna tell you what happened to me.
I was just a 12-year-old kid growing up. I never did much wrong. I even got involved with the Boy Scouts of America. I got arrested going to my Boy Scout meeting. And I had $1, so I stopped at the corner store to get some Better Made Red Hot chips and a Faygo Peach, my favorite. But when you in that situation and when you with friends, we all looked at it as kind of funny. Now, I hate it when people talk bad about my neighborhood, but there was a drug raid going down at the corner store. One of the officers, huge guy, dressed like a Ninja Turtle, he asked me what you was doing out there. Like we had jokes about it. We would laugh about it at school the next day, you know. Like, man, you look so scared. And I know he saw my fear. I told him I was just going to my Boy Scout meeting. And he smacked me. I cried laughing after that happened. It's how you cope. Traumatic experiences, things happen, and in your eyes, it's funny, but your brain is just trying to make you cope. Yeah, I was actually headed to Boy Scouts, and he smacked me again. So I'm not dumb. The next time I just told him what he wanted to hear. Sir, I was out there, and I was on the corner, and I was selling drugs. Then he didn't smack me anymore. You know, I'm not a big podcast. I do probably around 30,000 listens a month, which is a medium level podcast. It's enough to get sponsorships, and I'm able to keep going through that.
Let's feel free to, get ready.
Yeah, we're at WDET Studios, and Naila's gonna be coming in, and she's the one who. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll keep it.
What's up? I use this studio for a new project I'm working on called In Good Company. In Good Company, I'm telling entrepreneurs' business stories in Detroit.
I got my first taste of entrepreneurship in elementary school.
I'm just getting that rich Detroit story.
I've been doing this 12 years. I just got on payroll about a year ago. So the first 11 years of this company, I was working for free. I wasn't taking home a check at all, and I was doing it gladly because
that's what
it was a
you
labor of love.
envisioned from the start.
Yeah.
You said that to yourself.
I didn't know it was going to take that long.
But I know at this point, I've been doing podcasting for close to 10 years now, and people are still listening, and I'm slow and steady, and I'm happy with that.
We got something.
I'm 44 now, but all those experiences I had in that, all that struggle, all that time, I just consider it raw materials for stories now. You know, I look at it as my little toolbox. My car went out today. I find a story about that. You know, my wife left me and took the kid, and I lost all the money at the casino. I don't know.
All right, let's turn now to pizza, specifically Detroit pizza. You know, the square kind that has a crunchy crust, cheese that goes to the edges. We can be pizza snobs here in Motown, especially since Detroit pizza is now on menus around the country. Well, do you remember where it all started? Well, here's a little Detroit Pizza 101 from our documentary called Detroit Remember When, Made in Detroit.
Everybody, square pizza.
Square. They make a square pizza, and that was weird.
What, are these people crazy?
No one even heard of square pizza. It was unheard of.
You fell in love with it. It was great.
But there's purists that will come in and say, nope, cheese and pepperoni, original sauce, that's it.
Detroit-style pizza is going to be something when every time you take a bite, you're going to taste every product that's on there.
It became sort of the Detroit style, as they're referring to it now, but it's actually Sicilian style that originated in Detroit.
Detroiters came back from the war, and some had acquired, well, a more refined palate. Some were stationed in Great Britain, and so they wanted English food.
Fish and chip places like on Gratiot, where we were at, there's 3 or 4 of them in 2 miles.
On the east side, Gus Guerra owned a tavern at 6 Mile and Conant.
It was a gathering place, like Buddy's Rendezvous. Let's rendezvous at Buddy's, because the guys would come in and play cards.
Gus came from San Marino, that little country surrounded by Italy, and he had married into a Sicilian family.
And my father said, you know what, he says, there are really no pizzas here. We got one pizza in the city. So we started making pizza.
Buddy's Rendezvous was at the front end of what soon would become Detroit's pizza craze.
Everybody was throwing up pizzerias.
There was lots of pizza, round pizza, but Buddy's stayed square and thicker. And they used trays that were supposed to hold small car parts or even catch oil dripping from milling machines.
It's a labor-intensive process to do our pizza. It requires multiple stretchings where you take a round pizza, you take the dough, you flip it, twist it, and it's ready to go. With us, it's got to sit and proof. That part of it didn't maybe appeal to a lot of pizza people at the time.
Buddy's added one more ingredient, too, brick cheese. Brick cheese from Wisconsin, another place with a lot of Poles and Germans, just like over on Detroit's east side.
The pepperoni is underneath the cheese, which is unique. What it's known for is the blend of the cheese and the flavors of the sauce with the dough, creating this crunchy pizza that has got a great taste.
Yep, business was going good all right, but it wasn't going quite so well for Gus.
My father left Buddy's in 1953. There was a little internal problem between the partners, which can happen in any relationship.
2 guys, both named Jimmy, wanted Buddy's, and so Gus sold it to him.
He promised Buddy's he'd move it at least 2 miles away, and he found a little farmhouse in East Detroit. It was called Cloverleaf Farm when he bought it.
While Gus made his pizza north of 8 Mile Road on Gratiot back in Detroit, these women, led by a Sicilian named Connie Pincinato, kept faithful to the original Buddy's recipe. Wesley Pecula started as a dishwasher there when he was just in high school.
Whatever Connie tells you, you do. Whatever Savina tells you, you do. And Anna, the one on the left, you could see the size of her arm. So trust me, I listen to her more than anybody.
By the 1960s, Buddy's had become an East Side institution. Sports teams that played at nearby Jane Field held pizza parties there. Sometimes, hey, they even lined up around the block just waiting for seats.
Let's put it this way. In 1970, Buddy's was the story in that area. They had other places. I mean, they had other pizzerias on the east side. There was many of them, but none of them had the reputation that Buddy's had.
My parents went there around 1969, and my parents were just loved the atmosphere.
1970 was the year that really changed everything. Buddy's was sold again to Bill and Shirley Jacobs this time, who arrived just in time for the great pizza contest created by the Detroit News.
We had a good pizza, and we thought we'd have a good shot at it.
In a city full of round pizzas, it was between the Cloverleaf and Buddy's for the squares, but only one of them would get to compete.
My father called about it, my brother called about it, and they told him that you're excluded, you can't enter the contest because you're not inside Detroit city limits.
As the omen was, Buddy's was picked as the best pizza place in the city.
Buddy's took first place, and it hurt us, I know that, but there was nothing we could do about it.
By the late 70s, Buddy's was adding another location out in Warren.
Every story got better by the day, so at some point it became legendary.
In 1980, Ronald Reagan came to town for the Republican National Convention. It was big news, of course, and Buddy's decided to feed square pizza to all those hungry reporters down at Cobo Hall, and they liked it.
Every news person you could mention, every anchor, signed that Buddy's book. Said better than New York. I mean, we had Ted Koppel, this knocks anything out of New York. I mean, we had so many of those quotes.
Now Buddy's is spread out all over Metro Detroit.
Maybe now it's a brand. It's the test of time.
How much time? Well, almost 70 years. And Cloverleaf is still going strong, too. And then there's Louis. Now, we've got to mention Louis. That's Louis Pizza without an E. He made it originally at Buddy's, and then he made it at Shields, and, well, he decided to do it all by himself right here in Hazel Park nearly 40 years ago. Detroit Square Pizza is good, of course, but we haven't talked about Detroit's iconic round pizzas. Well, maybe more on that next time.
That segment always makes me hungry. To find out more on Detroit Remember When, Made in Detroit, just head to our website at onedetroitpbs.org. All right, that is going to do it for me on One Detroit Arts and Culture. Tate's still sleeping, but we're going to leave you with a holiday tradition that's changed just a bit during COVID. The Interlochen School of the Arts performed a virtual Nutcracker Ballet. Enjoy it, and I'll see you next week.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.
From Delta Faucets to Behr Paint, Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support for this program provided by the Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV,
the Kresge Foundation, Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan.
The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public TV, among the state's largest foundations committed to Michigan-focused giving. We support organizations that are doing exceptional work in our state. Visit dtefoundation.com to learn more.
Business Leaders for Michigan, dedicated to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. Nissan Foundation. Ally.
The Fred A. and Barbara M. Erb Family Foundation.
And viewers like you.